Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We have a very exciting discussion today. And the focus today is on art and beauty for brain health. I'm going to hand over to Professor Andre Mochen, the head of neurology at the University of Witwatersrand, to start this today. Andre, over to you.
Thank you, Kirti. And as you say, I'm a neurologist, so I'm not that much from the corner of art and beauty, but it's really fascinating to have this topic for our brain health series. So, I mean, art and beauty has been explored by many leading neurologists or neuroscientists. So the names that come to mind is V.S. Ramachandran, Oliver Sacks, and then the famous Nobel Prize winner Eric Kandel. And he himself has authored several books on art. One of them is called The Age of Insight. So somehow there is a inclination or kind of interaction between the field that studies the brain and the field that creates sort of art and beauty. So interestingly, there is this kind of intersection. So we are really thrilled to have to be hosting now this part of the Brain Health Perspective series. And looking at really the value of brain health and the rich African culture traditions that can support brain health really intersect. And we have a wonderful lineup today on this. There is a nice quote from Kandel that I want to throw in here before I hand back to you, Kirti. So it says, art is an inherently pleasurable and instructive attempt by the artist and the beholder to communicate and share with each other the creative process that characterizes every human brain, a process that leads to an aha moment, the sudden recognition that we have seen into another person's mind, and that allows us to see the truth underlying both the beauty and the ugliness depicted by the artist. So with those words, Kitty, you can take the gravitas further.
Thank you, Andre. So art and beauty for brain health really is about the arts and how the arts can support brain health in many, many different ways. We have three exciting speakers. And in terms of that also, it's about what we have within our traditions and our cultures as well. So what is available in galleries and concert halls, but even beyond that, what do we have in our homes, in our city streets, in our places of worship, in our rituals that actually support brain health? And when we look at the brain, we think about thinking, how to actually think, problem solve, remember, and art can actually help in many different ways for that. When we think about the brain, it's about how we process emotions, how we deal with the challenges, and how we actually transcend them potentially. And art in all its forms can actually help with that as well. And personally, I think in the field of brain health, the arts in all its beautiful forms are actually as important to support brain health because it gives us an affordable, accessible, and mostly acceptable way of actually supporting brain health. And dare I say it, a lot more fun. So I do think it is a really important field in brain health. We have three incredible speakers: Meren Abbey from Ethiopia, Nsamo Munga, based in South Africa, born in Zambia, and Jane Solomon from Cape Town, South Africa. I will introduce each speaker before they speak, and we're going to start first with Meren. Meren is a global Atlantic Fellow and an Arts in Health practitioner. And she is passionate about that intersection and a holistic approach to health and healing that would include the arts. She's currently working on a mental health project that actually looks at the youth and how art can help to support them, and also in terms of using art to understand the process. Over to you, Meren. I'm going to apologize. There seems to be a lag on my Zoom in terms of it switching to the actual speaker, but it is on speaker view. Meren?
Thank you very much, Kirti.
Oh, no lag. Perfect.
And I'm very happy to be here and to make this perspective of mine. So am I allowed to share my screen, Kirti? Thank you very much. Yes, so I'm going to make a speech about the Ethiopian Epiphany, which we call it Tet, for healing and for health. And it has lots of colorful activities and events during that period of time. So I would like to draw a narrative from that perspective. So the Ethiopian Epiphany is a religious event observed nationwide to honor Jesus Christ's baptism. Additionally, it is also listed under the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. And the celebration the celebration begins on January 18. Am I connected, Steve? It feels like I'm breaking here. Oh, okay. Thank you. So it starts on January 18. January 18, and then in January 18, it's actually a 3-day festival consecutively. The first eve is called Katara, and that Katara is basically people on Katara, they take their parish church, which is called Tabot, which is a replica of the Ark of the Covenant, to the Tumkata Bahar. Tumkata Bahar means a place which has a pool, a river, or artificial kind of pool for the process of baptism. This baptism is not an actual baptism, it's just a symbol. A symbol for the, for the celebrity of or the memorial of Christ's baptism. So this is what it looks like. And then on January 19, which is the day of the celebration itself, the pre-sunrise ritual kicks off, and the celebration starts early in the morning along with other rituals. One of them is sprinkling the assembly with holy water. Every tabut starts its colorful parade back to its home church at around 10 in the morning, and accompanied by a variety of religious and traditional songs. And what I wanted to bring here is the non-religious activities performed by the youth for the beauty of the festivity. As you see, this young man is carrying maybe more than 100, like a 20 kg of carpet, which is used to beautify the celebration or the festivity. And this is not actually part of the spiritual activities, just an initiative between the youth. And this started maybe 10 years back or maybe 15 years back. So it's a recent activity done by the youth group. So the escorting from and back takes several hours during the day of the festive. For this to be easier, few stations for short rests are organized in between the church and the Tumkata Bahar. So as you can see here, the youth make some of this beautiful creative stations for the tabots to rest for a while. And then of this being an inspiration for the youth or groups from the neighbor, started being very much creative and build installations with different team every single year. So this one is from this year, which is 15 days before. This initiative is mainly organized by the youth group, and according to my observation, the majority of this youth group are not with or from unstable income. They are very young, enthusiastic, passionate youth groups, and some of them might be students, some of them have low income probably, or no serious or strong spirituality in their daily life. So this fascinates me very much because they do it from passion, and it is mainly, I see it as form of venting their inner compassion. So these installations, so I brought few installations from different years. As you can see, they try to make both kind of installation. So these installations are basically made in 2 days. Of course, the preparation takes long, but the time they have for installation is 2 days because this practice is done in public, so much time is not given. And other from different religions or age groups are also very much invited to contribute with finance, resource, skill, which I think is the beauty of this celebration. It's not only spiritual. It has been very much. It's getting very much bigger and very much, you know, celebrated by the whole community. And I feel like this affects primarily to the participants and passively to the community at large, beside its spiritual practice, which for sure has a healing power or a healing virtue. So as you can see, many different kind of rituals. And also it's also a time where fashion editions are very much released. As you can see, this one is introduced this year, for example. So for the women especially, the dressing and the hairstyles are also introduced. So I think this is what I wanted to relate it with beauty. But what I wanted to link with health is if we have a chance to study this, what I wanted to look through is one is this practice is a platform for strangers to share the culturally informed items, distresses through poetry, music, textile designs, writings, and creative installations. And also when many are asked, they share the moment that allows them to balance and define thoughts on their self-worth, on the sense of purpose, hope, and shared values or problems with the participants around who are actually strangers for one another. And the other and most important thing is the shared ethical behaviors during and after the festive, which is the imitative learning also from strangers. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Marion. It was really a wonderful introduction to TimeCat, which I was completely unfamiliar with. It reminded me of something that I read some time ago about going on a pilgrimage in the East is equivalent to seeing a psychologist in the West, just because of all those different processes involved. And this reminded me of that in terms of the intergenerational aspect, exposure to arts and all the benefits, the ability to create community. Like, I think it's at these festivals where you speak to people and create those points of trust and communication. So really beautiful photos. Thank you, Maren. We will allow for questions at the end of all of the presentations. The next presenter is Nsamo Munga. Nsamo is a poet, a singer, a music therapist, and he's a PhD candidate at the University of Pretoria. His research focuses on the use of indigenous musical arts for managing anxiety in cancer patients. He's also a lecturer at both the University of Pretoria and the University of Johannesburg. Nsamo, over to you. I think you're on mute if you are talking.
I'm on now. So I'm going to invite you for a moment to allow your mind to settle in and take a few deep breaths. Just allow yourself to be present in your own body. And as you are present in your own body, allow whatever emerges, whatever form of expression within your own mind and your own body to happen. And if you can, allow your mind to wander. Wander to the words that you hear, and wander to the invitations of this moment. My presentation this evening is an invitation to allowing our minds to wander and capture the beauty that presents itself to us, and such beauty that only when we are open to it, we may be able to access, and such beauty that is a reflection of our interaction between the material brain, our very existence, and that of the world that it mirrors. The jagged and the beautiful. The jagged contours of a mountain range captivate us, reflecting the ruggedness of our nature's artistry. Similarly, the intricate structure of the human brain, with its complex neural connections, mirrors the beauty of our lived landscapes. The brain's architecture, shaped by our experiences and interactions, is a testament to the adaptability of our species. In the face of many life's perplexities, particularly the enigma of death, we find ourselves at the peak of creativity. Examples abound of when our minds are set to wander when faced with puzzlement. Philosophers philosophize and poets write, dancers dance and priests divinize. All these are expressions of our social artistry. And this is not an error in our evolution, but a testament to our resilience and adaptability. In cultures less interrupted by modernity, creative expression continues to be a means of making sense of life's jagged edges, which are many. Most of our lives are influenced so much by these jagged edges: the wars, starvations, droughts, and floods. And when we are faced with all of these, it is easy for all of us to rush towards despondence and hopelessness. And yet something in our evolution has taught us that those are impulses and invitations to creating, to co-creating the life that we want to embrace. And neuroscientists, and I'm not one, suggest that our experiences, interactions, and the landscapes we inhabit shape our brain's material structure. For example, Hofer, a neurologist from the University of Basel, found that neurons received functionally diverse inputs from extended regions of visual space. So these contours of our lives that we see reflected to us through the mountain ranges and also through the brain structure may symbolize our life experiences and the literal formations in our brain in response to these experiences. It's no surprise that lots of neuroscientists will tell us and describe the brain structure itself, the images that we see of the brain, as beautiful. So there's an artistry to even just looking and visualizing the material brain structure. The images that are presented to us can be experienced by us, by neuroscientists, by brain experts as beautiful. So there is the interaction between the material world of the brain and our experience and our encounter with beauty. And I'm hoping that with these few words that invite us to connect with the beauty of our own lives and also the artistry that sometimes we may not allow, sometimes we might find ourselves inhibited to accept and welcome into our lives, that these words will invite us to celebrate that jagged beauty. We celebrate the emergent beauty we find in perplexity through creative expression. Our health, our well-being, and meaningfulness are shaped by the beautiful, jagged life's ups and downs, and those moments when we do not experience or do not want to see and experience beauty and art, mirroring the images of our landscapes and the material brain. So this short presentation is that invitation to celebrate the jagged and the beautiful as reflected in our creative expressions, however those expressions may be, whether it's the creative expression of scholarship, the creative expression of interaction with other people, the creative expressions of neurology and enhancement of well-being and health. So we embody all of this in moments of life's perplexities and also in moments of ecstasy. Thank you.
Thank you, Nsamo. Very, very beautifully said and really very, very poetic. And really what a beautiful invitation for all of us to actually look at the ups and downs of life as part of a whole, and an invitation for us in terms of our creative expression that is necessary for our health and healing. Thank you. Really, really beautifully put. We're now going to go to our last speaker, Jane Solomon. Jane is an independent designer and artist who works in various media, and she's also a facilitator of community-based arts projects, where she not only helps people in terms of this personal transformation, but also uses this as a source of income generation, which is so important for where we are. One of our projects worked with UCT and MSF and people living with HIV to create this body mapping system to help people living with HIV, which will be the focus of the talk. Over to you, Jane.
I'm just going to share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hoping everyone can see that. Is it full screen, Kurtie?
It's not yet full screen.
Oh. And now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the Long Life Project. It's actually 21 years since these artworks were created. And within the theme, I'm going to talk around making art and the beauty and benefit of the creative process. This image is of 3 of the 13 long life body maps that was shown at the Palais de Tokyo in Paris last year in 2023 in an exhibition entitled AIDS, Art and Activism. So the ongoing acknowledgement of the power of the body maps is testament to the bravery and commitment of those who created them. Body mapping involves someone tracing around your body to create a life-sized outline, which is filled in or mapped out during a creative and reflective process, producing an image representing multiple aspects of your embodied experience. In 2001, Jonathan Morgan, a psychologist working at UCT, ran memory box workshops with people living with HIV. Memory box or memory book work originated in Uganda, and the Kailicha group followed a similar process, reflecting on their lives through gathering documents such as photos, objects, drawings, and writings together in a container. At that time, the president was saying that HIV doesn't cause AIDS, and there was very little treatment available. Before treatment, memory box work was used to assist people living with HIV prepare for their deaths and leave behind a legacy for their children. In 2002, through the efforts of MSF and TAC, 12 women and a man from the Khayelitsha group started antiretroviral treatment and came together as the Bambanani support group, volunteering to tell their story publicly for an advocacy book. I was asked to facilitate art-making workshops to create imagery that could be used to illustrate the book and generate the narrative. My thinking was that rather than participants creating a number of small drawings, they could instead outline their bodies onto a sheet of cardboard and use this shape to create layered life-size portraits wherein many different aspects of the self would be integrated and operate simultaneously. We would use the body as the entry point and art making as a way to access an inner world of memory, feelings, and emotions. Participants would have the opportunity to tell their story and have it witnessed in a safe, non-judgmental space. The process, the act of making, would be beneficial and was seen as more important than creating beautiful artworks. Whereas the memory box work could be seen as creating a container to prepare for dying, body mapping would examine the body as a living container. Sessions took place in a small room at the Khayelitsha Day Hospital, with Jonathan present for psychosocial support. Body mapping uses drawing, writing, symbolism, talking, listening, and sometimes dancing and singing as a way to explore, record, and reinvent how we interpret our lives. On completion, participants were interviewed with their body map. They had had the opportunity to contemplate and reflect on their lives during art making, and this then made it easier to share and talk about difficult issues. In 2003, with informed consent, the artworks were used alongside text from the interviews in the book Long Life, Positive HIV Stories, and exhibited with walkabouts by the artists at the National Gallery in Cape Town. This project equipped the previously voiceless with the means to speak powerfully. Audience appreciated that the Bambanani group were joint owners of their images and stories and learned from their accounts of lived experience. I came to this work not as an academic, a researcher, or a therapist, but as a designer who understands how creativity can be used to process challenges and find solutions. The Long Life process was made up of a series of art-making exercises designed to address relevant issues around living with HIV and highlight the value of treatment. The workshop took place before we had cameras on our phones, and we have very few photographs of the 2002 making process. Seen here on the left is a body map Nondumiso made in 2002, her long life body map. And on the right is a second map made by Nondumiso in 2011. I'm going to briefly talk you through the process with photos taken during the making of the 2011 body map. By then, we did have cameras on our phones. So, to counter the fear of the empty piece of paper, we work from the belief that everyone is creative and the actual physicality of art making is healing. To start, choose a partner and outline both figures onto a piece of cardboard. It's impossible to trace around yourself. Choose a color to represent how you feel in your body and outline your shape. Here we see Nondumiso painting purple. She said, "The color around my body, purple, for me is my strength. So through all of this, I feel fine, myself, that I am a woman of strength." In the next exercise, you choose a color to represent the support in your life and use it to outline the other figure. Nondomiso chose red and then wrote the names of supportive friends, family, organizations, and beliefs in the outline of the other figure. Stamp your identity, ink up and print your hands, and some people print their feet too. Then visualize where in your body you draw strength from. Mark this point and draw a symbol to represent who you are there. Nondomiso expressed, in my heart, I drew the picture of a baby. That baby represents my child, and that he has been my center, my strength. He has been my educator and my teacher. Look in the mirror and draw a self-portrait. Then transfer the face onto the body map. I've really condensed these instructions or prompts. In the actual workshop, they're much longer and go into a lot more depth. The facilitator prepares participants by demonstrating how to draw a face. Participants are given time to draw themselves until the portrait looks right to them. No one wants to look strange or ugly. The next exercise is to come up with a personal slogan, something you say to yourself during difficult times. I don't have an image here, but you'll see it later on Nondomiso's finished body map. Nondomiso's slogan is, it is within giving that you receive. So this first set of exercise confirms identity and builds self-esteem. These exercises are designed to prepare participants for the more challenging exercises to come. This is just showing you that these body mapping workshops have an educational aspect to them. This chart illustrates the different systems of the body and is used as a learning tool to find out more about where the organs are placed and how the different body systems work. I'm going to use this image to cover quite a few of the exercises that follow, including marks on the skin. In Nondomiso's 2002 body map, you might have noticed brown marks within her body outline. And here, 9 years later, and on treatment, they have faded and are shown as these sort of peachy colored round shapes. The next exercise goes under the skin. What organs, bones, muscles are relevant to how you feel now? And participants draw these using relevant anatomical references if needed. Nondomiso says, I've drawn my reproductive system to show that I have given birth. I also got the AZT to save my baby. My baby was born in 2004. In the next exercise, participants draw how they see HIV and place the image of the virus where they feel it most in their body. Nondomiso says, in my last body map, I showed my HIV inside my body with how the ARVs are working. Here I showed the virus outside my body because it has given me opportunities. The image on the HIV ribbon is a maple leaf. I traveled to Canada twice just to talk about my experiences. The next exercise is looking at what you do to stay healthy, and you'll see an apple with a tick on it up near Nondomiso's head, up near the head of Nondomiso's body map. And she said the apple symbolizes eat healthy and have a positive mind. People must exercise to stay healthy and also to get rid of stress. And on the image on the left, you'll also see her slogan there. And the workshop ends with participants having time to decorate their body maps, adding what they feel is missing and removing what they feel is no longer necessary. It's vital that the makers are happy and proud of their body map, their representation of self. And lastly, in the first slide of the exhibition in Paris, you might have noticed one of the body maps was just a double outline. This was Tubani. He was the only man in the 2002 workshop. But in 2011, Tubani rejoined the group and created this beautiful body map. And I'm going to use his personal slogan to end this presentation. Face it, life is a challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. I think the work is just amazing. The art that actually is produced is incredible as well. And I think that journey from to transform what seems to be a hopeless situation into one of hope really is incredible. And I do wonder the opportunity for using this technique in the brain health space. I am now going to open for questions or discussion or comments. So please unmute yourself and feel free to ask the question. And to just say who, which of the speakers you would like to address the question. Perfect. Thanks, Lingani. Go ahead, Lingani.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you before.
Sorry. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Maren, Jane, and Sam for those captivating, really, really, really wonderful talks. Thank you so, so much. I've got a question for Jane, but it probably applies to all three presenters. So I think Jane spoke about, making art as an avenue to healing. Yeah. So I just wondered, in terms of experiencing art, like as opposed to making art, do you think that that has a different impact on healing, whether you're making the art or just experiencing the art, for example, in terms of, watching a cultural show or anything like that, as opposed to being the one who's actually making and creating?
It's interesting because I've always thought that you need to be making art to experience that healing, but not anymore. It's different, but I think it's all valid. And as someone said in the introduction, yeah, it's about you either expressing or you are experiencing someone else's expression. And within the exchange, I mean, I think the one thing is that you can make art on your own. You can go to a gallery on your own as well, but it's different. So I think the actual the making process, and also I often think of the healing happens when you're making art, that could be music, whatever, and you lose all sense of time. You're completely immersed in that space.
And do you think that's different to when you're experiencing, for example, instead of making music, maybe listening to music? Do you think the impact is different?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could be listening to music on your own as well. I tend to get distracted as soon as I go out, but that's me. I really think it's all valid and it's all important. And also artists need an audience.
Okay, thank you.
So maybe I'll just come in here in terms of some of the science behind it. So there was a study actually where they looked at that question, Lingani, and they had two groups of people. One group who visited a gallery and had like specific like talks or ways to analyze the art or experience the art gallery. And the other group had to create art. And both of them did have benefits. So experiencing art, not creating art does actually have a benefit. But in the group that actually created art, they found significant differences in terms of heart rate going down, blood pressure going down, and cortisol level cortisol levels going down. So basically stress markers going down. And they did a resilience score, in essence, a scale. And so psychological resilience was improved in the group that was creating art. And I think what's key here is that the art, it's about the process, not about whether you like your art or not. You know, it's about that creative process, not about whether you think it's good or whether it's going to belong in a gallery for it to actually have a health benefit.
Interesting. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, also maybe I just want to
Yes,
make
please,
a comment. Right at the beginning of our gathering, I could see some people almost like not claiming the fact that they are artists, whatever form of expressions that we have chosen in our lives, right? But because I'm a neuroscientist, and so I might distance myself from any form of artistry. Right? If I'm a chef, maybe I might consider myself some kind of an artist. And I think what has happened in this whole big world of commerce and capitalism is that we have usurped the prevailing artistry that each of us inhabits, each of us has already, whether it's me being an observer of the sunset or the sunrise. I'm participating in art in that particular moment. I may not be the one that is making it, but I'm definitely a participant in the artistry of nature. Right, and it's so unfortunate that we've disempowered all of us, all of ourselves, by attaching art to that which we can put monetary value to, or that which we can attach to some kind of virtuosity or mastery, or activity. Right, so there's art that is an activity. There's also art that is present for all of us that we can access at any given time. If it's sitting down just enjoying a mug of coffee, that exercise of enjoying a mug of coffee is a moment of art and a moment of beauty. You know, I was talking about perplexities and whatever. I've listened to people who work as undertakers describing the experience of helping people bury their dead as a beautiful experience. It's a form of artistry.
Well said. Thank you, Samuel. Maren, do you want to comment on that?
I think Jen and Samu has put it very well. So
Perfect. Sibusiso?
Yeah, hi everyone. I just want also to add in my sense about the question of making and experiencing the art. During my festival, Zempilo Mental Health Festival, the traditional healers, which is Izangoma, which means the one who's made of song or who uses song to process healing. And then he talks about a process which I'm also aware of, where the sangoma will drum into the person who's sick, and then the vibrations of the drum, it means that the person is experiencing, is not really making, it can be making, because it's an interactive process. But the healing happens when the sangoma hits the drum, and then the drums, the vibration, then it gets to heal the person. So what I'm trying to get at is that even experiencing, as most people have been saying, experiencing the vibrations of the drum have got a healing potency. I just wanted to add that to Bob.
Thank you, Sibusiso. I think it also echoes what Samuel was saying about how we interpret what is art. Any other questions? Christelle?
I have a silly question, so I'm too embarrassed to ask it, so I've put it in the chat.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go to Christelle and then I'll come to your question. It was a hard question. I saw it. Christelle, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question?
it's not really as much a question as also just, well, first saying thank you to Maren, Nasamu, and Jane for just bringing us these different perspectives, you know, of beauty, and also just this, what you've also mentioned, the whole thing about experience and process, and then in a way also ritual, how that also comes in different forms in each one of the speakers, and the experience, the importance of that experience, whether it's an art gallery, but also very important, that ritual of coffee, taking a morning coffee, and then looking at the mountains, and the engagement in drumming. All of those things carry a vibration, and it's what we focus on that grows. So in a way, the importance of beauty for mental health and for healing, especially in a world that's so complex that we live now, I think it will become more and more important in order to rebalance that. And it's just fascinating to see how each one of these creators use art and healing and ritual, which it really is at the end of the day. Whether you make it yourself, or whether you look at what somebody else is doing or has made, or what you participate in, the beauty of that. So just thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Christelle. I know even in your art, it's something that you use as well. So it's interesting how this is actually coming to the fore. Thank you. Steve, do you want to share your thoughts? Because it is quite interesting what you observed.
Sure, thanks, Katie. And thanks, Maren, for all of you three. Hi, Jane. For your presentations. They were fantastic. So a little reflection on art as a sort of individual project versus a collective one. You know, as you've said, an artwork or an artist needs an audience, and there's a dialogue that's set up for not necessarily just two people, but to a bigger audience. And it is almost by nature a collective experience rather than a solitary one. But it's quite extraordinary what happens in Ethiopia, and I've seen it in India as well. This incredible sense of a collective joy, or and the amazing amount of effort that goes into preparing those costumes and floats, and then that use of color, which I've also seen in India, just like this explosion of color. And you know, you've got it in the body maps as well, Jane, you know, that people's choice of color and how that kind of animates things. Your participants drawing of the splodges on her body in red early on, and then fading later on to a sort of a brown that didn't attract attention. Those kind of things. I haven't got a specific question. I was just fascinated. No. Presentations, and as far as in Samu's thing, I couldn't agree more that our everyday experiences are artistic expressions, and we often don't experience them like that. I mean, some of the most artistic and creative people that I work with are laboratory scientists. You know, they go into a lab and they do high-level science, but their sense of imagination is just off the charts, because they're designing things that we can't see at a sort of molecular level that lead to, you know, breakthroughs in vaccines or whatever it is that they work on. So art not being confined to artists or what we regard as art, but I think, like Vishani said, the healing is in is kind of intrinsic in all of us. So sorry, that was a bit of a ramble, but you got me going.
But I have a question for you, Steve. How would we in the health space actually encourage more participation in art from the health practitioner point of view?
I think just by inviting it. You know, we've had various artistic or photo competitions or whatever. It's amazing what comes out of the woodwork when you actually create a space for people to share their work. And also getting a message out that art is not and beauty is not the preserve of a few special individuals, but it's the preserve of all of us, which I think is what Nsamo was saying, that that we are all have this intrinsic capability, and so encouraging that or inviting that to be expressed.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Ila?
Thank you, Kirti, and thank you to all the presenters for such an enriching conversation, and to all the participants of this call. So I just have two reflections, perhaps. And the first is related to the impact that art has on us. And this is just an experience that I have had recently, just reading different kinds of books through different authors who come from different places in the world. And there was quite a noticeable impact on my emotional state in engaging with these different artists. And so I asked myself the question, you know, as a participant or observer of art, what impact, on what level are we impacted by the psyche of the artist, and vice versa? When we engage with the art itself, does it have an impact on the person it has come through? And so I was having this conversation with an artist friend of mine, and she was reflecting on how when she, you know, when she shares a work of art that comes through her, it's less of a personal experience than a collective experience of every conversation she's had, every interaction she's had, all the art she's engaged with, all the people that have contributed to her emotional life. And that, in fact, it's an entire field of information and energy that comes through her. And I thought that was such a fascinating idea, that we are not expressing just a sense of individual pain or emotion, but we're actually connecting into a field. And if we are engaging with, if the observer is engaging with the work of art, would that not influence the field? So this is just kind of a little bit of an out there concept, but something interesting to consider. And the other thought that I had was that the creative act of healing itself speaks to the way that we are designed as human beings. We are, and this has been spoken about already and brought up already in this conversation, is that we are wired as creative beings, and the actual pursuit or the act of healing is creative in itself, is art in itself. And we are works of art in process continuously. And I just love that thought when it comes to art and healing, that the healing itself is art. So yeah, just thank you so much for this conversation and for all your work in the space, and to everybody else as well.
Thank you, Ila. Yeah, really profound statements. It reminds me of artwork by Yoko Ono, and there was one aspect of the art where you actually opened a little closet, basically, and there was a mirror and you saw yourself, and it was just that representation of what is art, and art is you. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. Any other questions? Or any other, oh, sorry, there's one more question there. Let me just see who that is.
I think just to pick up on what Ila was saying there,
Perfect.
As to whether there's a psychic interaction between the artist and Well, there may well be, but at the same time, there's almost an independent interaction between what is presented out there. We may all be looking at the same sunset, and we may be looking at the same painting by Vincent van Gogh, or the Starry, Starry Night, but the impact it's going to have, however much of the story of Vincent van Gogh I might have, in that particular instance, what I'm looking at is also looking at me. And so there's almost an instant dialogue between what is going on inside of me and what is happening in that particular interaction. And we see this in music, for example, where I've listened to this song so many times, I've listened to this music so many times, and this one time, I'll be driving on the highway, and this song plays, and I break down in tears, and sometimes I might not know why, right? So each iteration of that encounter is going to be a reflection largely not of what the artist is trying to present, but of what is actually the interaction between where I am as an individual in that particular moment. And also, as you mentioned something about the artistry in healing, I was very intentional to work with words and voice today, just to use the voice in this particular moment. And then imagine if a doctor woke up, a physician woke up one day and says, I'm going to the hospital, I'm going to make art, right? So if a community worker woke up one day and said, I'm going to that community, I'm going to make art. It's a whole different way of working. Steve was talking about, I mean, we're all sitting here and we see these images from outer space that are produced by painstakingly made telescopes over many years, many hours. You know, scientists who wake up every day and then they give us this feedback of images that they just explode our imagination. The work of art that is disguised as, some people would say, disguised as science, that is very mechanical, all of that, right? So there's artistry. I mean, a scientist who's writing a paper and writes a beautiful sentence, and you stand there and you're like, wow, what beauty is in that sentence.
Exactly.
Very well said, Nsamo. And it reminded me, I don't know, did everybody watch Fast Car by Tracy Chapman? That really did bring, I don't know why, but it did bring tears to my eyes, actually. Like I was very emotional listening to it. Maren, do you want to comment on what Steve was mentioning about the colors and the festival and the community and what that potentially feels like having experienced it?
Thank you. Yeah, so the colors, the warm colors that you have seen is basically the are to represent the flag of the country, but still on the creative side, the warms has some energy to share between the participants. And what I like about at Festive here is it's not only the creativity, it's not only the new songs coming up, the textiles and everything, or the spirituality. It's more the connection we make with people at the same time. For like a whole day, people are gathered together and they're sharing something together. And that has also have a healing power, because we vent with what we feel, what we have been feeling. So sharing to our experiences to strangers is not easy these days, especially the lifestyle has become very much individualistic. So these moments are very much important in a community. To add up with what Ila was mentioning earlier, while she was saying it, I was asking myself, how does it feel to be a professional artist and doing it for a healing purpose? I think there is quite a big difference between those two. When you do it, for example, I write theater, I direct theater, and when I do that, it's more of like expressing or taking out of the the thoughts that I've been contemplating into a very structured form. So it's actually a healing, but you know, you don't take it as a healing, you take it as something to say, like you want to say something to the community or so. When you do it for other people, for example, when I do it with my participants in a mental health rehab centers, it's quite different. It's more like you get very much amazed with what people come up with. You know, that they don't have an art background, but what they bring to you is, or what they show you, or what they want to share you through painting or through writing or storytelling. It quite hits different, and makes you very much sensitive and soft, and you internalize a lot. Yeah, and I think it hits differently when you do when you are in those different like hats, you know. Yeah.
Thanks, Maren. Jane, any thoughts on that?
I was getting a little bit distracted because I had a thought and then from what Maren was saying, but just I'm interested, can art or making or beauty actually change or shift neural pathways?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think for me, that's when with the body mapping, that's what I've seen. I've actually seen people have an enormous shift in through one of the exercises, especially drawing the virus. So the one woman, she drew the virus and then we put the body maps up so they look like you standing there. And she said, wow, I'm big and the virus is small. And there was just, yeah, it was evident, the shift that happened in that moment.
But yeah, I think definitely, I think the research shows it. But I also think, you know, what Nsama was saying about our experiences actually, you know, giving us those contours of the brain, it really is true. So if we create art, specific parts of the brain are activated differently from when we don't. And potentially that's why, but it is quite phenomenal what you're describing, just that how that then empowers people with specific illnesses going forward. We have quite a few people also hosting art and health or arts and brain health and mental health events. And I'm just going to give them a chance also to present what they are actually doing. Sibu Sisu, can I ask you to go first?
Off guard there, can I just, because I'm wanting to show you a video, can I
Sure.
go next?
Okay, so I'll ask Dominique to go first.
Sure. Hi. What a fascinating conversation to be listening to. I can make myself visual as well. I'm talking to you from the offices of the Irish Hospice Foundation, where over the last 2 years we've begun to make a program which is all about creativity and end of life and bereavement. And a lot of the questions that you ask on this call are very present here, with a significant difference. There is no curing in a general sense. There's no reorganizing of life. There's no fixing in this environment. Instead, it's about maybe a settling or something else. And it's one of those questions that in the Global Brain Health Institute that myself and Maren and Kurti and Sibu have been part of at different times. We've been asking for the last 8 years. We've been asking, what is the role of creativity and the arts in a really big definition of arts? What does it do? We've been asking, who gets to make art, what, when, where, and how? Why? What's it for? We've been thinking about the difference between arts as something that you're individually engaged in, where you lose track of time, about agency. We've been thinking about the arts as research practice. We've been thinking about how it connects with amplification of ideas and how it, in some extraordinary places, achieves complete transformation of individuals, of groups, of systems of society. And we've also been thinking about the lack of difference, as somebody was saying, Steve, between artists and scientists, that if you go backwards into the roots What you're dealing with is a pile of people that are curious. They're just curious, and then they develop tools. They're tools for exploring the world and the universe and the life that they're in. And maybe one difference is that one group are focused on pathogenesis, the origins of disease. And maybe the artists are interested in salutogenesis, creating the conditions for health, conditions from which health grows. So, with all of those questions and all of those ideas, 2 years ago, we started Creative Brain Week. I'm going to put a link for you in the chat and you can explore at your leisure. And Creative Brain Week has been gradually bringing together in Dublin and online thousands of people to ask the kind of questions that you've been asking. What is the relationship now, contemporary life, between creativity and the sciences of health? And then we've gradually discovered that there are other people joining us. The WHO has got particularly interested in this. They carried out a large synthesis study in 2019, and they've just announced this, which is a big piece of work in the Lancet, so the doctor's Bible, I suppose, about the relationship between arts and non-communicable disease. And if you root around for long enough, you find that there are many different groups of people asking similar questions or the same questions or questions adjacent. And so we bring them all together in Dublin between the 4th and 9th of March. And we ask questions together and we share what people are learning. We look at the things that you communicate through words and the things you have to communicate through dance, because dance is the best tool, or through visual arts, or through painting, or through color, or through. And gradually this is becoming a whole new way, not a new way, maybe an old new way of making knowledge, some of which we've summarized in a book. But we also know that location is incredibly important. And so this year we are working with people like Lingani and Mahalid Salama in Egypt, and Kim Nguyen in Brisbane, and Jayashri in Delhi, and making Creative Brain Week satellites. So the similar sort of idea, but thematically connected, locally informed. And so I invite you to take a little bit of time and explore them and enjoy them, and join in asking questions. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Kirti, for the chance to talk to all of these people.
Thank you, Dominic. Yes, so Creative Brain Week in Ireland and in Egypt is between the 4th and 9th of March, and there will be online access to specific talks as well. I'm going to go to Lingani first because it leads from Dominic. Lingani?
Sure, thanks, Kirti. So as Dominic mentioned, so we'll be hosting Creative Brain Week Satellite in Botswana, and it is thematically connected to the Dublin event, but locally informed. So in Botswana, what is happening is we've developed Creative Brain Week in conjunction with the Department of Psychology at the University of Botswana. And one of the main reasons for this was because we wanted to see if we can have something that can be more sustainable in the long term. So our aspiration is to use this Creative Brain Week basically as a platform to raise awareness and to educate people on brain health and on mental health. And then we want to do this in ways that are relevant to the Botswana population, and as I said, in ways that are sustainable. So we've developed it in 3 stages. In the first instance, we've kind of brought together a core group of people who have defined and are refining what brain health messages is actually relevant and needed in Botswana. Because messaging that is relevant in some parts of the world may not necessarily be relevant in Botswana. So we wanted to make sure that we're spreading messages that are relevant for the context. And then our next stage is to train, because the University of Botswana trains students. So we want to train a group of students who are going to be our ambassadors for spreading these brain health messages and these mental health messages. And then once we've trained our ambassadors, what we'll do is we'll engage wider communities. with a particular focus on rural communities. We'll do this in 3 ways, or 2 ways actually. So we'll visit a couple of schools and, spread brain health messaging, mental health messaging. We will visit a khotla. So a khotla is like a rural place of gathering. It's a meeting place of a particular tribe. So we've picked a particular tribe in Molepolole, which is about probably an hour away from the capital city, and it's quite rural. So we've chosen this so that we make sure that these services also reach rural communities. We will visit the khotla, or the meeting place. So this place is headed by a chief, and we will educate the community. So when people visit a khotla, you have the whole village kind of gather there. So we thought this would be a great way of spreading messages. Oh, and the third thing that we'll do an awareness walk. So we'll do a 10-kilometer walk, which will leave from the city, but end up in a rural area within the city. Maybe it's not called a rural area, but like a more high density area within the city. So just still spreading awareness about brain health. And then at the end of this, we will bring the community and educators all together in celebration. So we'll have a big celebration and a symposium at the University of Botswana, just to kind of continue to spread messages, as well as talk about what we've learned as we were educating communities about brain health. So the event will be from the 3rd of May to the 8th of May. And unfortunately, we haven't made provision for online joining, but it would be wonderful for people to follow what we're doing, on social media platforms and on the Creative Brain Week website as well. And that's it.
Perfect. Thanks, Lingani. So 3rd to the 8th of May, if we want to travel to Gaborone.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sibusiso.
Can I ask that I share my screen?
Sorry? You can share your
Playing
screen.
a video. Can I ask that I share my screen? Okay, cool.
Just while we're waiting for Sibusiso to share his screen.
So I'm going to be presenting on SMP, though. Should I go?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Usually I would present my things myself. So this time around, I chose a different medium, which is video. So yeah, I'm gonna show you 2 videos of SMP Mental Health Art Festival and then say a couple of things about it.
I think the sound is off.
My name is
Sibusiso.
Mrs. Sophie.
No, it's on.
I'm the chaplain. So the sound is off.
It's not off, but the signal
Should I
is too
continue? What
bad.
should I do?
The signal is too bad. So we can't actually hear the sound well.
Okay. Not working out. I'm just gonna present it myself.
Maybe also let me give an introduction
That's
to your
fine.
festival.
Okay, cool.
Sibusiso, I'm going to ask you to switch the video off. I think your signal's not, so I'm going to switch the video off and to stop sharing.
Okay.
Sorry, I think it's just because the bandwidth is not.
Okay.
And while we're waiting for that, what I wanted to say was actually I attended Sibusisu's mental health and arts festival last year at Wits University. And it was absolutely brilliant. It may have been one of the best arts festivals I've ever seen, just in terms of the quality of the production cities, where I met in Samu and attended a music therapy workshop, which was absolutely beautiful, profound. It was a certain magic. I don't know how Samu did what he did during that workshop. But at the end of it, maybe Summer doesn't agree, but we all sounded like we were in a choir and we had never sung together at all. So it was really brilliant and phenomenal. But the quality throughout and the theme throughout was really about the impact of art on mental health in different ways. So using theater, using music, using dance, using the discussions and what we learned from each other. It was really one of the best curated art festivals I've been to, Sibusiso. But I'm going to ask you to stop sharing potentially.
I've stopped
And maybe
sharing
just
now.
give your description. Okay, perfect. And give your description of what you're doing this year.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for saying all those nice things about my festival. But as what you said, my journey was 2 to 3 years journey where
Sorry,
I
Sibusiso, I'm going to have to interrupt you.
Invited and facilitated this for art experience I have experienced myself from face.
Sibusiso, the signal is not clear, so we can't actually hear you. What I'm going to ask you to do is perhaps put a link, because you do have these clips on YouTube. If you could put them in the chat box, and if you could put when you are actually having the next date in the chat box, or maybe just let us know when you're having the festival itself. The signal is very bad, so we can't actually hear you.
Copy. Chat box.
While Sibusiso is doing that, Samu, I know you're also organizing something in Zambia. Do you want to just share a little bit about that art and health event?
Yes, we have a symposium coming up in Zambia at Open Window University. This will be the first time that we're having a symposium dedicated to the expressive arts and creative arts therapies in Zambia. Just a little fact, I'm originally from Zambia, and I happen to be the first and the only music therapist in Zambia. So we're trying to build kind of some interest and also some awareness of what people can benefit from the integration of the creative and expressive arts, especially in education, in community, and in healthcare. Hence, in the broader sense, my research is within the area of the arts and health. So it's in March 21st and up to March 24th. So yeah, we're building up nicely. The lineup is out there. There'll be lots of information coming out very soon. And if you follow my LinkedIn, that's where I put a lot of what I'm actually doing and involved with. Then you'll be able to pick up exactly what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, do you have anything? Because I know you regularly host medical humanities events as well.
Nothing coming up soon anyway. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody. I think there's really so much happening, and it's really it's been such a wonderful conversation for me to actually feature art and health on this Brain Health Perspective series. Any last thoughts from our panelists, Samu, Maren, or Jane? Lingani, did you want to say something? No.
Nothing on my
Samu,
end.
go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to invite each of us, at least in whatever way we can tonight, right? Even just to listen to somebody within your household, or somebody that you care about, or somebody that cares about you. You just spend a bit of time just listening to their voice, the sound of their voice tonight, and it might just surprise you how artistic that voice will sound, right? And we know this. This is not new from the motherese and the sound of our mothers. We know what that sounds like when with different tones and intonations. So it's just a little invitation. Just be a bit more attentive and see what that voice can do tonight.
Thank you, Nsamo. Maren? Jane?
I think what Nsamo said is a great way to end the discussion.
Perfect, thanks. Maren, anything else? No, I'm going to assume not. Again, thank you. Andre, do you want to add anything on art and health before we close?
Just a great thank you and highly inspirational. So great to be part of it. Thank you, Katie.
Are we introducing regular drawing classes in the neurology department, Andre?
There are some consultants complaining that people can't draw basic anatomy anymore. So hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah, let's do it. Before the grand ward round, we have to do an art class. 10 minutes. Thank you, everybody. It really has been such a profound discussion, and apologies to Sibusiso, we couldn't hear, but it really was one of the most profound arts festivals, well curated. I would invite you to visit his Instagram links and just remind of all the arts and health events that are happening. Thank you to Nsamo, thank you, Jane, thank you, Maren, thank you, Andre, for making this happen. The recording will be available soonish. And the next Brain Health Perspective series will happen on the 2nd of April, and it will look at the built environment and the impact that it has on our brain health. And I look forward to seeing you then as well. Thank you. And we will come to Zambia.
Thanks so much, Katie.
Thank you, Steve.